Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. If others are coming in, we would love to have them. Hopefully people will be able to join in a few minutes, but thank you so much for coming today. Let me get I'm going to share my screen so I can get my presentation going. Okay. Everybody can see my screen, yeah?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, why is it on this? Hold on one second. Bear with me for just a second. For some reason. Okay. All right, good. Okay, maybe. Why? Sorry, this is being very troublesome. Okay. All right, I think we're okay now. Thank you guys so much for coming. Welcome to the beginning of what we hope will be a long series of events and activities to help students and families and educators in Bhutan to understand college and career options in the future. So as we get started today, just a few things that we will cover. We will be, I'm sorry to interrupt myself, is the way that I'm sharing my picture problematic?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if the way that I was sharing this was getting in the way of the words. So I'm sorry. Okay. So we will be having an introduction of our team and myself and how we will be working to support students and families through the CCR activities, events, and resources, as well as a platform that we will be using in order to engage with our community members and all of you on the call today, and inviting your friends and loved ones who also might want to join up with these initiatives. Upcoming topics that we will cover, how you can become involved, and questions and answers. Just a few notes about today's presentation. It will be recorded, so you are welcome to not share your screen. If you have questions during the presentation, please feel free to type them in the chat. And then also at the end of the presentation, we will open it up for you to unmute yourselves and ask questions that you have if you would like to at that time. Why isn't this advancing? All right, really quickly, thank you for bearing with me in my technological issues. Really quickly, let's have the CCR Bhutan team introduce themselves at this time.
Sonam?
Okay, I'll go first.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Hi, my name is Sonam Diki. I currently work as an environmental consultant. So I do a lot of projects here and there with the Royal Government of Bhutan and also with ADB. I graduated with a double degree in International Relations and Environmental Studies from Lake Forest College in Chicago.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Kitso, and I work as an independent consultant, mainly in communications. I work with a few CSOs, private ventures, including UNDP Bhutan. I went to Hampshire College, a very small liberal arts college in Amherst, Massachusetts. And I have a degree in liberal arts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Srijana Giri. I am a, how do I say it? I'm a business person. I'm a marketer. I have my own startup. I studied bachelor's in business administration with information technology from Symbiosis International University in India. It's a private college, but before I took that degree, I was in law school for 6 months because, when we were younger, we never got the college and career readiness programs in school. So unfortunately, I went to law school and then wasted 6 months of my life. But anyways, I hope that none of you have to go through that. That's why we have initiated this program. But yeah, looking forward to see every one of you.
Thank you. We also do not have, we have one other member who is not here today, Rig Sar. So hopefully you'll see and hear from him in the future, but this is our main team of people who are working on these initiatives together on your behalf. I think I skipped a slide somehow. For some reason, sorry guys, I don't know why this is being so problematic. Does anybody on the team know why it's being strange for me to advance through my presentation?
What did you say?
Sorry, I don't know if it would be helpful if you shared the presentation and I just had you advance, because it's just not letting me advance, and I know it already skipped one. Thank you for your patience, everyone. If you can do a screen share and open the slide.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
All right. Can you make me the host, Malissa? No?
Yeah, I'm doing that right now. Oh, goodness, hold on. Okay, change host, thank you.
Is it visible to everyone?
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
All right, I think the slide that we skipped was just the global Shapers slide at the beginning when we were trying to, I just wanted to introduce global Shapers really quickly as well. I think it's probably the third slide that we skipped. Okay, thank you so much. All right, we're back on track. So just a quick note that we are an initiative being hosted and sponsored through the Global Shapers Thimphu Hub. And while the hub will do participate in many types of initiatives, our particular initiatives will center around higher education and career and college readiness for students, families, and educators in Bhutan. We will be engaging professionals around the world and looking to support students in many ways, but just we really wanted to note that this is an arm of the Global Shapers Hub, and we have the website as well for you to access in the future. We will also be sharing all of these resources after the fact, so take notes or jot these things down, a couple of things that we'll go over, but that's just one thing I wanted to note about Global Shapers. Okay, next slide. Maybe. All right, we already covered that. I'll do a brief introduction of myself. I am Malissa Takacs. I am a counselor who currently lives in Switzerland. I'm based in Switzerland now at a school. I come from the US. I was in Singapore for 5 years before this year. I'm a licensed therapist and college counselor, and I've been working with students and families for the last 16 years as a college counselor. So how, you might be wondering, well, how did you come to be engaged with Bhutan, and why are you here today? So when I was in Singapore, I actually took 2 trips with 20 high school students, and I was involved with an initiative through Read Bhutan and Read Global. So I visited Ha, and I was in Thimphu and Pero, and had such an amazing time both of the years that I was in Bhutan, sorry, not in Singapore. I was meant to go on a 3rd trip and it didn't work out because of COVID, but I do hope to get back soon. And in the meantime, we'll be staying connected through our team and the work that we're doing with you all. And I do hope to connect individually with students and families and educators also in the future, and just continue building on these efforts that we are starting together. So really, thank you for having me. Thank you for welcoming me. And I do look forward to all the work that we'll be doing. So thank you. I have, we'll put this in the chat as well, but I can share a website. I have my own website where you can just learn more about me. I'm typing that into the chat now. So that's just a little bit more about me and my background. So thank you. We can go to the next slide. right, so I made this little video. Srijana, you'll have to hit play. I just wanted to show in a minute, I just wanted to show our the viewers today what we will be planning to use as our platform to share resources and information. So while this loads, I'll stop talking. This is why I made a video, so I wouldn't have to share the screen today.
All right, should I play it?
Yeah, please do.
We are sharing today, you will be able to sign up.
Can you guys hear the audio?
Yep, it's
We
good.
are sharing today, you will be able to sign up for the platform that we will use to engage community members together, students, CCR members, families, other professionals we hope to include in sharing resources that will be helpful for a number of topics. You'll see if you log in and join that you can look at different topics that we've already started to gather resources for. So there are a number of different areas: career guidance, financial aid scholarships, applying to universities around the world, and in the future, our mentorship opportunities, writing personal statements. Again, once you log in, this is a place where we hope to continue utilizing and building with one another. I just wanted to show everybody what that looks like once you get here and get logged in, and you'll see, hopefully, a place where we can connect.
Right, thank you. Hopefully the volume was okay, and that really, I wanted everybody to be aware of the platform that already exists that we are building. I've put the link in the chat. So this is an invite for you to sign up. This is where we will be advertising events, where our recorded sessions will live. If you sign up and log in, it's really not meant to be yet another platform that you have to feel bogged down by. I found this platform to be extremely user friendly. It's a place where you can ask questions, you can meet up with us. That's the biggest issue that we wanted to solve right away, is how to connect with us on an ongoing basis. And so there are a ton of resources in there already, and we will be planning to add more and more as we go on all kinds of topics, and you'll see them right away when you log in. We hope it's a helpful tool, not just another thing that you have to follow or feel burdened by. I have my settings actually set to where I just get a daily update, so I don't have to get emails all the time. So please feel free to use that, share that with your friends, and we will continue to promote that as well. Thank you for letting me share that. All right, next slide. Thank you. All right, so this morning I want to cover a few on the next slides. I just want to cover, as we think about university planning and how to start, I want to talk about how to start in a way that makes this as least overwhelming as possible. And so oftentimes when we start to think about what comes next, my future, where do I go, what resources do I need, it can start to feel really confusing. And oftentimes young people, families, we can sort of shut down before we even start. So I want to spend a couple of minutes this morning for me, this evening for you, going over how to really start that process. And a number of these topics we will be covering more in depth as we go in the near future. But I thought this would be a helpful place for all of us to start together. So one of the things, and I don't know if anybody can identify who's joined us this morning, is when you were in this position yourself, and we heard some of the team members say they didn't necessarily know where to start, or maybe ended up doing the wrong thing for a few months before they got onto the right track. So our goal is to help students build a foundation for themselves so that they know when they are looking for their university and career placement options, that they have asked themselves some really important questions and have engaged in meaningful self-reflection with themselves and with their families and their parents to understand what exactly they're looking for. So next slide, I'll continue. So here's a good place, I think, for most people to stop and begin reflecting. So asking yourself questions about what you value and what you know to be true about yourself. And this is your process, and we will be here to help and guide you. But this is your process, and you are in charge of it. And we want to empower students to take initiative on their behalf, in search of their goals, and they're identifying what they're looking for in the future. And along the way, we will be providing special interest topics on building career resources in terms of finding what will fit you, identifying the things that you might be good at, that you want to explore, and where to find those options to explore. So doing your research, and we will be helping students with how do I even research universities? How do I start to research career options? Having conversations with people through our platform, in your own networks, and engaging people in your school communities and other professionals around the world. Organizing, evaluating, synthesizing the research that you're putting together. And of course, as you go through the process, understanding how you make choices and evaluating those choices that you've been making along the way. Next slide. So the next step after that would be to start asking some big picture questions. Again, what do I know about myself in the future? What might I be good at? What are some things that I have explored or I need to explore? How am I feeling about my future? What kind of decision maker am I? Are my family and I in agreement on these topics? How are my conversations at home going? And I think every family around the world has to have honest and open conversations about what the options will be. How far from home do they want their student to be? Financial considerations, career choices that impact the family in the future. I think these are really important to begin asking and being open and honest about. And that's sometimes tough and sometimes difficult, but we encourage you to engage with those questions meaningfully before you dive into, oh, I just want to go to school in Japan and I don't really know what that means, but I want to get really far away from home and go all the way to Canada or the US. These are really big questions that you have to be working through as a family. So we do ask you to think about those things too. What will be most difficult or easiest? Sometimes students can get really overwhelmed with feeling really prepared in some ways. I've been a great student, I'm really good at this subject, and then thinking, oh, these are all of the things that I might not be good at. And sometimes that can be overwhelming. And so we want to encourage you that this is about balancing the things that you have been good at, the things that you might be good at, the things that might be difficult for you. Parts of this process can seem really, lots of questions on the front end. So we will continue to work with you and be available to you to keep processing through these kinds of questions. Next slide. Maybe. All right, one step further, and this is just to continue building on the things that we've been thinking about, those big picture questions. This is when you start to get a little bit closer to trying to identify university systems maybe that will be a good fit for you, university systems that may not be a good fit for you. So for example, in the US, universities are designed to be four-year universities. They're very interested in helping you explore all kinds of options for study. Whereas if you're looking at the UK or Australia, some countries really ask you to be very specific about what you want to study and what your career will be. And they get you into those career tracks pretty quickly. And so I think, again, before you dive straight into locking yourself into certain countries and systems, these questions, again, they don't seem super important maybe, but I think these are some of the more important questions to think about: the communities that you want to belong to. What kind of people do you want to be around? Kind of city do you want to be in? The weather, class subjects that are important to you, and how are the financial implications that concern my family going to impact this decision? So these are, again, just that next layer of questions for yourselves. And then last but not least, we will be sharing a doc with you. It's kind of a top 10, I will put this in the chat right now. It's kind of a top 10 set of considerations that we would want students to ask and start to explore. And we will be sharing this on our platform as well. But we want, this is a little bit more specific. And so if you look at this, if you bring this up on your own computer in the future, under each of these 10 areas, This is moving you towards further, deeper exploration of the areas that you most have to strongly consider when you're thinking of your future, what you want to study, what you want to do, and how you want to find those universities that meet your needs. So when you're looking at programs, location, the style of teaching and learning, the housing available, what support you need on and off campus, what you need to actually apply to the universities. So testing, essays, the grades that you need. And then of course, putting together your college list, and then how to engage universities through online events, campus visit fairs, interviews, these sorts of things. And so this is a very specific set of questions to help you start putting together your university research. And so I hope that you will find it to be helpful as a way to narrow and really hone in on the things that you need to start identifying about universities around the world that will be a good fit for you. So hope I've posted the doc in there. We will share this later, but I hope this will be a helpful place to start. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so before we get to questions and answers, a little bit about upcoming topics that we will cover. Understanding financial aid and scholarships around the world. This is a very, very deep topic. It's not something that can be covered in just a few minutes. And so one of the sessions we will be hosting in the near future is a lot longer of a conversation on comparing and contrasting the cost of attending universities all over the world and understanding financial aid at a very basic level and helping you to apply that to the schools that you might be looking at. We will also be hosting admissions and other professionals from universities around the world, and we encourage you to, I think I'll be able to put this, if you haven't already, I'm looking for, if somebody has this, the Google survey that we've sent out. This will also help us understand what other topics we can bring to you. But a couple of countries that came through from the survey results already, which maybe you have filled out, we've looked at some popular countries would be Australia, Canada, the US, UK, Europe, Southeast Asia, Japan. And so we do plan to host professionals from around the world to engage with you live in person and just answer your questions and help you to understand their systems. We want to focus as well on career planning, so building your resume, networking with professionals, and practical experiences that you need to gain in order to build that resume, as well as that self-understanding of what you might want to do and study in the future. Standardized tests will be another topic that I can cover in the near future, just because there are so many of them. And for universities around the world, different expectations exist. So I would love to help students understand that. And then also, again, if you haven't filled out our Google survey, we want to make that available and hear from you about these topics that you also want to hear about. Those are just a couple of things that we hope to provide in the near future, as well as hear from you on topics that you want us to bring you. Next slide. Is there a next slide? Maybe. Okay. So please join. I put the network in the chat. And so please feel free to join that. We want to hear from you there. My email is listed on this as well. And then stay tuned on our social media for upcoming events. People are welcome to add questions into the chat, or you can unmute yourselves if you want to ask some questions or share some thoughts or things that you would like us to chat about this, well, I keep saying this morning because I'm in the US, this evening. Or if anybody from the audience had any questions. Thank you.
Hi, Melissa.
Hey, Tinley.
Okay, there's a question there, but I just wanted to ask a question, maybe just to get it started. So I don't know if you've already shared with the students or the audience here, but what is the next event that you'll be having after this? Like, what can the students be ready for, and also, gather more of their friends to join so that they know what's coming next?
Yeah, thank you. So I think what we plan to do next, it was on one of the last slides, I think as we can, in the fall, so starting in September and every month, our plan is to have a different university professional from parts of the world that are most popular for students applying to university outside of Bhutan. And so we want to start with Australia, Canada, the US, Southeast Asia, Japan, and just go from there. So those will be our top countries that every month we plan to have different presentations from university professionals that are live in person, that students can learn more about specific universities, but also ask questions about those countries. So for example, if it's a university presenter from UNSW in Australia, they can learn about UNSW, but also ask questions of the Australian university system. So that would be our first set of monthly, targeted monthly events that we'll be sharing with our community. On the side, like I said, a number of things that I will be covering and with other professionals from my side of the industry would be standardized testing, career development, so working on your resume, working on networking skills. And this is meant to engage all ages, right? So we want to balance those who are ready to apply to university and give those students the skills and the resources they need. So understanding financial aid is a big one. I think understanding the ins and outs of financial aid for different countries that you're looking at is really important before you apply. I will be available on an individual basis as well. So I'll share my email again if students want to reach out to me individually. But also the platform that we have set up has a number of resources already available for self-guided career assessment, or building your resume, or researching universities around the world. And so I would really encourage students to start to follow along there and share that with their friends as well. It's a mighty network platform. And I think that would be another really good place for students to start exploring on their own, just because we are targeting and using that platform to target students on different topics. I know that was a really long answer to a short question. So the questions about, did that answer your question, Tinley?
Yes, thank you, Melissa.
Okay, good. So where can I take standardized tests in Bhutan, and are there any platforms available that I will be able to take SATs and IELTS online this fall? That is not something I am particularly knowledgeable about right now. Does anybody from the team know about standardized tests? I know a lot of them are online, and so that would be something that I would be happy. Go ahead. I'm going to type my email on this so that you can follow up with me afterwards.
So the online test from Bhutan, I think there needs to be a little research done. But then, if you want to do the paper-based tests in the country, then you have to go to RCSC, and RCSC lets you do the GRE, SATs, and the TOEFL. I can share a link of the scheduled dates that RCSC have in the chat box here, if anybody is interested to look into that.
Thank you.
Other than that, the online examinations, we can get back to them. I mean, in the Mighty Network.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that answer and sharing that resource. I would be happy to help you look into standardized testing, just because it's changed so much in the last year, and I think it's a positive change. I think many universities around the world are sort of amending their testing components, but the IELTS is a big one. I understand the English speaking test will probably remain available and required for a long time in the future, as opposed to SAT, ACT, these kinds of US-based, and some Australia universities need them. But I think it's shifting a little bit, and even for this year in particular, you might not need them. And so I would be happy to work through with people individually to sort of understand what tests they actually need and where to take them. Another question is, how important is the Common App essay? It's really important, actually. That will be one topic that I will be sharing in the near future and would be available to work with students individually on essays. But because of the way that the testing requirements have changed, I think three things will become really important when you're looking at the US. So one will be your essay. Essays, sometimes there are many, your grades, those grades that you have achieved in high school are probably the most important way that US universities will evaluate your application, and your references. So most students have the opportunity to submit teacher and counselor recommendations. And so these things, these components are to help students become known by the university. And that essay is becoming more important than ever, I think, just to understand how you engage with the world around you, how you see yourself as part of that world. And so it's, I think, a really important tool by which you can show universities who you are and what you've achieved and what's important to you. So I think it's really important. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most important, I would give it a 10. So to answer your question, pretty important. How do I use my Bhutanese ethnicity as to stand out? I think, to be 100% honest with you, I think it's a Bhutanese saying that you, on your application, that you are coming from Bhutan is it's a really unique piece of information. I can't guess, but I can't imagine that you would be competing with a lot of other students from Bhutan for certain universities. So I think, I mean, for lack of better ways to answer the question, I think it's a really interesting component, an identifier. You're coming from a small country with, I don't know, I think it's unique. And I think people would love to see more students coming to their universities from Bhutan. That's my guess. I don't know. We'll be hearing from other universities and they'll tell you themselves what they think. But that's just my guess. So. Okay, how many extracurriculars do I have to have in minimum to be a potential candidate? So right now, I guess the best way to answer this question is that on most US university applications and other applications around the world, a student only has room for maybe up to 10 different extracurricular activities to describe on most applications. So universities around the world let you describe these in different ways. So some don't ask for them at all. Some only care about who you are as a student academically. But for the US in particular, it's not really that you have to have a minimum or a maximum, but US universities are looking to see what you did and how engaged you were, what was important to you. So sometimes that means that you were just an athlete or a singer or an artist, or that you volunteered in your community, or that you worked a job, or that you helped your family. Whatever it is that you did with your free time, there is a way to express what you did with your free time, why it was important to you, and what this says about you as a person. And so I wouldn't necessarily say that it's about how many, but I would say that it's about what was important to you and what did you learn through the activities that you engaged in. So I think there's sometimes a misunderstanding that we have to do more or we have to do a lot in order to be a good college applicant. And that's simply not true. The goal is to engage in high school in meaningful activities, and then to be able to express to others why they were important to you. I hope that answered the question. If at any point there's not enough information, please just type that in the chat, like please clarify. I heard that the students will be compared to their regional applicant pool. So will I be compared to Bhutanese applying in general, or will I be compared to those students in which country I attend the school? Great question. That's a very good question. So initially, when a university gets your application, they see how many other students have applied from your school. So you might be the only person from your school who applied to that university. They might see also the other students from Bhutan, from other high schools in Bhutan, secondary schools. And then they might see other students that, say I was the one reading the applications, I might then see all the applications from Asia or Southeast Asia or the region, right? China, India, Singapore, these sorts of this area. It doesn't necessarily mean that you will be compared to students in Singapore, for example. So let me use an example. I worked in Singapore, And every year I had 75 students applying to New York University in NYU in New York. I don't think 75 students from your high school necessarily would be applying to NYU, maybe, but I doubt it. And so NYU can only accept a couple of students from that school, whereas you will be in a completely sort of different pool. You might be in the same general region as students from, say, Singapore, but you won't be necessarily compared to them. You will be treated as your own applicant from your own country, from your own high school. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of different for each part of the world, but I hope that answer makes sense. That's a great question. Any other questions? Also, any information that we weren't able to provide, let me know. I think I've made my email available. We shared our platform. We have some testing information. That's great. Trying to make sure we shared all of the resources here that we wanted to.
Melissa, I have
oh yeah
question though. But this was also when I was like applying for colleges back then. So they used to say like there was like the early decision. So
yeah,
would like
great.
applying for early decision give you like a leg up?
Yeah, that's a great question. So early decision, what Kitso is describing, if people don't know, they're in the US only. There's a decision plan that you can apply, early decision it's called, to one school. And it's binding, which means if you apply and if you get in, you're saying to that university, I will come to your university. So a couple of things that you have to understand before you make that commitment is that you would want to work with a counselor, someone like myself, to understand the financial piece. Because once you're accepted, you're saying, I'm coming, regardless of how much money it costs, how expensive it is, how much financial aid you get. So one of the things that you would want to do before that is have a better and we'll talk about this in our financial aid presentations, but you want to understand roughly how much money that university will be expecting you to pay. So for example, if the university in the US that you're applying to says that it costs $70,000 per year, that might not be the cost that you will be paying, but you want to understand before you commit to that what you will be paying. Yes, there usually is for some schools, a lot of schools in the US, there is a pretty strong advantage to doing that. Because they know that if you come, that if you are accepted, you will come. And so sometimes you'll see, and I have this information, I can share this on the Mighty Networks platform, but US universities publish their acceptance rates through regular decision. So the regular application pool versus the early decision. And sometimes they are 30 to 40, 50% higher through early decision. So when a student really loves a school and they want that type of advantage, sometimes they do make that decision that this is a good decision for me. I know that I can afford this school if I get in, and I'm going to commit because I want the best chance of getting accepted. So some schools, there isn't as much of an advantage. And so students say, well, I don't want to commit myself to that school. So I'll have other options on the table because this school, I love it, but it's not to my advantage to apply early. Oh gosh, how do acceptance rates vary? This is a really hard question. That's a great question. How do acceptance rates vary when you apply for financial aid? So I will explain this as best I can, as quickly as I can, and we'll have much more information in the financial aid section on our platform and through our presentation. So in the US in particular, this is usually what we're talking about when we talk about financial aid, acceptance rates and financial aid. So some schools and some universities in the US don't care. They don't know who is applying for financial aid. They don't know if your parents have all the money in the universe and they're very wealthy, or they don't have much money to send you to university. We call that need blind. So some universities they don't take that into consideration when you are applying. Some universities are very much aware, they call it need aware. So they're very much aware of everyone who's applying and how much money those students can afford. And so the university tries to pay attention and make sure that they're only accepting a certain number of students who need this much money. And so we always ask students when we're talking about US universities on the application, there's a question that says, will you be applying for financial aid? A lot of times, many students, the majority of students click yes, I will be applying for financial aid. And how the university treats that later, that's different, because especially universities who want to provide a lot of money for their students, say Harvard, for example, they have a lot of need-based money to give away, but they only have so much. So admissions officers at Harvard are very much aware of how much money, when they accept the students, assuming they will come, they only have this much money to give out. So it's not a very helpful answer probably right now, but we hope to explain this better in the future, probably more of like a 45-minute to an hour-long presentation with a number of resources to help students understand how this impacts their applications. But that's a really good question. Okay, also, since we belong to one of the lower income countries, is it possible to get fully funded scholarships in elite schools like Ivy schools? Absolutely. So that's a great question. And right now, I think one of the most exciting things that's happening in higher education is that universities in the US and even around the world, not just the US, Canada, Australia, the UK, the Netherlands, they are looking for talented, we call them high achieving, low income students. And so I don't want to overwhelm you with that term high achieving. What I mean is that they're looking for talented, smart, capable students who they want to bring to their university and pay for them to come. And so they will, that's another thing we'll discuss during financial aid, is that there are universities around the world that say, I will meet 100% of your need. So if my family can afford to pay, and I've worked with students like this around the world, if my family can pay $300 a year for me to go to university, many universities around the world will fund the rest of that. So say I get into Harvard and my family can pay $300 a year for me to go, then Harvard will commit to pay the rest of it, right? If they meet my full need. I don't know why I'm talking about Harvard. I'm not getting paid by Harvard to talk about this. But yes, I think, yes, the answer is yes. It is possible to get into and get funding for many types of universities, including the Ivy League schools. That's good news, I think. I hope I answered that question. Does not taking standardized tests due to COVID affect our application to the North American schools? Right now, many schools, and I can post this when I upload this recording and we share this, I will post some information on this. There are hundreds and hundreds of schools right now in the US and North America, Canada, around the world, who don't expect you to have any standardized test, because a lot of students did not have access to standardized tests. If you were able to take standardized tests during COVID and you like your test scores, you can submit them. But right now, many schools are still saying, I mean, we know we've been going through this pandemic and not many people have had the chance to take standardized tests, or all of the test centers have been closed, right? So honestly, it's not an expectation that schools would have of you right now. And maybe in the next year or two that will change, but right now, many schools are not expecting you to have standardized test scores. Oh gosh, you guys are really good. How important and easy is filling a CS profile and College Board application if you want a good amount of scholarship? So there are two forms that we'll discuss in future discussions about financial aid. One is the FAFSA, if you're looking at the US. It's the free application for federal student aid. And then the CSS profile, which is through the College Board. Again, very good question. The CSS profile is actually, it's taking that same information about your family income, but it's also asking you about assets. So for example, if you have any property or homes or any other type of assets that belong to your family that count towards your income, not your income, but count towards your family financial makeup. That it's not a difficult form to fill out, but private universities in the US require it. If that's something that you need assistance with, I would be happy to help students understand that form and help them with that process. But it's not much more information than you will need to have available for other financial aid forms. So it's not that it's difficult per se, it's just a different form that some universities like you to have, or they require you to have actually. These are great questions. Thank you for asking. Any other questions? Okay. All right, I will assume, oh, yeah, I know, these are great questions. I love this.
Hi, Melissa. Sorry, I actually
Yeah.
had maybe like an advice for some of the students who would like to take their SATs here. I did my SAT in Bhutan in 2010.
Yep.
So before you, obviously, as Melissa already mentioned, there are some universities who, where a standardized testing is not mandatory. So you do need to look into that requirement first. And also, if you are planning to take your SATs here, maybe things might have changed over the years, but at least during my time, I did have to call RCSC and confirm the dates again, because sometimes when you're the only person taking the SATs here, there might be some complications with bringing the papers in, so they might not agree to take the tests on the given date or the date listed on the website. So I would definitely advise you all to like just call the office and maybe follow up and get a confirmation from them before you pay for the standardized testing. And at least another advice I had, or what I did during my application for my undergrad, especially with my extracurricular, because I did a lot of sports. I also did a lot of singing. So what I did was I actually compiled it all into like a CD, made it into like a very short, snippets of all of my activities that I did, and actually put it up on YouTube and shared the link with the university, so they wouldn't have to go through like, all my writing. And also with the certificates, I actually got it attested to confirm that these are original and not something that I just made, so I think attesting your certificates would also be something that you could do. Yeah.
That's great. That's great advice. I think all of that, especially with testing, I think you reminded me of something I think I really should have said earlier, is that when you're searching for, and Srijana, you shared a great resource, but when you're searching for, and we can answer these questions after this meeting is over, of course, but when you're looking for, if you see that a university needs the SAT, or you want to take the SAT, or you need to take the IELTS, the English proficiency test you can take a little bit longer. You can prove your English proficiency at the time of application. So SAT involves a little bit more planning, like Sonam Deki just said. But when you go to the College Board, so collegeboard.com or collegeboard.org, then you can set up your account and you can see the test centers and the test dates available to you. And so that would be the best place to start when you're looking at SAT, for anybody who's on the call that just isn't aware of that basic piece. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of students now, they are able to upload some, if they have some special talents, they can upload to a YouTube. And when a university officer wants to see you singing, or, if you're not applying to the arts, because sometimes athletes and artists and singers and dancers, sometimes they are required to upload their work as part of their application. But if you're just someone who isn't, say I want to major in economics, but I'm really a good singer, I just want you to know that about me. Or maybe there's like a special little scholarship that I could get, not because I'm going to be a singer, but because I've just been really good at it. That's a great pointer, and that's really good advice. Two other questions that I saw coming in. What do you think is a good IB score to get a good scholarship? It definitely depends on the school. I would say anything over probably a 35 to 37. I would say, obviously the higher the better, but probably starting around that 35 or 36 will probably start to get some university scholarships. Maybe, oh my gosh, if it's really loud, there's people cutting the grass outside. Is it really loud? Oh my gosh, of course.
No,
Sorry.
it's fine. It's fine.
really good timing. So I would say that's starting to target that 35 or 36 plus upwards would result in some scholarships. And we'll cover this more in the future. It depends on the country and the school, of course. And then how do you select your major once you're in uni? So again, depending on the country, some universities require you to know exactly what you want to study right away. So if you're going to the UK, some programs in Australia, Japan, some in Canada, they really need you to know right away, what do you want to study? What do you want to be? We are accepting you into that program. In other countries or the Netherlands, for example, but if you're looking at more of an open curriculum, you can change in Canada once you get there. You can, in the US, you don't have to know it all. And so this is a huge part. This is on the finding the right fit, the little checklist that we shared. As you are searching universities, one of the most important things you want to understand is, well, obviously, first, do you have to know your major before you start? And if you don't, how will they help you? So some universities in the US, for example, do a really good job of having you be an undecided major. And they use the first year of university to help you understand exactly how to work through how you choose. And in the US, you have up to 2 years to decide. So even if I say I'm going to be a doctor and I'm going to go to the US and study to be a doctor, I can change my mind and I won't lose any time. Certain countries, if I did that in the UK, if I wanted to be a doctor and I went to the UK and I changed my mind, I have to start all over. I have to come up with a completely different plan. And so there are universities that do a really, really good job. They have lots of services and people available to help you understand taking career assessments and getting you in the field. Say I'm deciding between engineering, architecture, and economics. And in that first year of study in the US and other countries like Canada, you will be able to explore those options. And anybody on the panel, if you can continue to answer that question, I would love to hear, from your experiences, what you think. I know, Srijana, you went from law to business.
Yeah. And then, so I studied in the Indian university. For us, it had to be pre-selected. We had to know in our first year which major to select. So mine was BBA with IT. So what we want to study, either it's marketing or HR or what is it? So I had to go and select that I want to study IT. It's just like that. But I don't think if you go to an Indian university, you have to know what you gotta study. There's no selection of major. But I'm guessing that it's quite different in the US. Yeah, which Somdiki might be able to share.
For sure.
So my experience, I definitely did not go with a major in mind, and I studied in a small liberal arts college in in Chicago called Lake Forest. So I actually changed my major a few times because, I was trying to figure out what fit me best. And I think that's the beauty of going to a small university or just university in the US. It gives you the freedom to just explore all the courses that you're interested in and then figure out. I only had to declare my major in my third year, which is like my second last year. So yeah.
So you had time to figure it out.
Yes, I did.
Which sounds scary to some people and to some families and some parents. They think, well, if you go to university, you should know right away what you're studying. And that's, I have a twin brother and he knew that he was going to be an architect. I had no idea what I was going to do, what I was going to study. I just went and I was surrounded by great people and I figured it out eventually. And even when I got my degree I got my degree in social work and communication, and I've sort of built from there. But some people just really know this is exactly what I want to be, what I want to do. And some people need time figuring out, which definitely very much relates to when you're applying to universities around the world. I often have students who will target, like, if I want to be an engineer, maybe I might apply to some engineering programs in parts of the country where I have to know. I might apply to a UK because in the UK, I could become an engineer in 3 years. And so that might be really attractive to me. But if there's a little bit of a doubt, I might also apply to some universities in Canada, the US, maybe Australia, just to see, well, if I change my mind in grade 12 or when I'm getting accepted to university, at least I will have a couple of options. So that's often what I'm working with students to do for themselves, is have a range of countries that they will be looking at to decide, well, do I want to lock myself in? And some students will say, if I get into medicine in the UK and that's a fast track to becoming a doctor, that saves me time and money. And then sometimes they back out from that later, or they might not get accepted to become a doctor. So yeah, it's I mean, we want to be sure everybody's process is different, and so this goes back to the beginning of our presentation, and why we're so excited to be here is that we want to help you individually. We want to provide resources for you, but as students, like anybody here on this call, or if you have friends who want to join us, we want to be available to help you with your own individual questions and your own process, because everybody's is a little bit different. And so we would be happy to just meet you where you are and help you work through some of these questions to find what will be a good fit for you. But these have been great questions. Yeah, what are good programs for a gap year after high school? There are thousands, and that's a great question. So taking a year off, that's a huge decision that some students make somewhere along the line when they're deciding about taking time off between high school and college. So there are thousands and thousands of programs. There are opportunities around the world. Some of them pay you, some of them charge you a lot of money. Some of them are free, some of them are open to all kinds of ages. Some are, I mean, it's good programs. I would be happy to share and if I don't have it already, I will put this in the Mighty Networks platform. I'll start a topic on gap year programs, but I might have put some stuff in there already, but I have a pretty long set of resources that you can start to look at. But again, every student is different. I think weighing options close to home, far from home. Some students will take a semester off, some students will take a year off, and they might do a combination of things. Some might take a university course, some might do voluntary service, some might do cross-cultural trip to learn language in another country. It really depends on what you're looking for, whether you're doing more of like a career training or a voluntary service, or if you're doing exploration, like personal exploration or skill building. It might be religious, kind of a religious adventure that you want to go on. So it really just depends on the student. I think there are hundreds and hundreds, so many programs.
So with the interest of time, I think we'll have the last question for today, which is, what is the good major for art students?
That is a great question. I think it depends on what area, just because arts, it could be fine arts, it could be performing arts, music, more of the technical side, like graphic design, it could be the production side of theater. I mean, I think I think what is a good major, it probably needs a little bit more narrowing and looking at different countries and looking at different systems. So what is a good major for art students? I think it depends on what you might want to explore. Some are very general. So some universities give you the first year to explore a number of different avenues and paths before you have to decide. So it's a little bit more open and general. And some are much more specific to the industry. So if I want to be a graphic designer or a cartoon artist or a mixed media arts, fine arts person, it really just depends on, I think the arts major, it involves, I think, a little bit more self-reflection and exploration before you dive into the major. And it also depends on the country. So thank you for that question. These have been amazing questions. I love this. I wish we could do this all day, but you're right. In the interest of time, we'll stick to our 1 hour together. Super excited for anyone who was able to join. I hope we've shared the best resources that you need right now to get yourself sorted and started thinking about university and career planning. We will continue to be available to you. Please share with your parents and teachers and friends what we're doing. And we would love to have continued community building in this space. So thank you.
We will be sharing the recording on the Mighty Networks platform and probably Facebook as well. And then please be updated with our Facebook page. We will share the next meeting whenever that happens. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining,
you.
everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a great day or great night, everyone.
Thank you for
Thank
Thank you,
joining.
Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.